All right, here we are. I am all freshly haircutted. Went to Great Clips earlier today and got a bunch of this big mane cut off. I don't even need a cap today. Oh, well, speaking of cap, guess what I went and saw at the theater today? I went and saw Captain America Brave New World. Now, everything that I have been seeing about Captain America Brave New World is that, it's woke, it's garbage, it's this, it's that. Now, what did I think of it? Well, I didn't go there with very high expectations because, of course, everybody's been saying stuff like, it's terrible. It's getting only a this or that on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever the heck sites amount to anything anymore. Uh, but I watched the movie. I did not fall asleep during the movie. Honest to God, I was entertained throughout the entire movie. I did not have a problem with it at all. I don't think there's anything objectionable in the movie. I don't think here's Puma Fist with a yo. I don't think there was anything that was off-putting about the movie. They did a lot of fan service. I honestly I thought it was pretty good. So Captain America: Brave New World. If you haven't seen it and you want to go see it in the theaters, I would say go for it. I really did not have a problem with this one at all, and I won't say that it's like a good lead-in to anything in particular, but it's a good movie that stands on its own. Um, I didn't have I didn't have portions of it where I felt like the pacing was too slow. I didn't have portions of it where I felt like the action wasn't all that it could be. Honestly, this was a pretty good movie. And I don't understand why it's getting all the crap online that it is, especially from the anti woke mob, the nerdrotics, the geeks and gamers, the people who's basically make it their point to say that anything Marvel is crap. I don't. It all depends to me on what it is that is on the screen in front of me. I go and see the movie. Is it a good movie or not? And I thought it was. It's a movie that I would even go see again. It's not and that's not something I'm probably going to do until it comes to like Disney Plus or something. But honestly, Captain America: Brave New World, I had no real complaints. Pumafist says people are tired of the brown washing of white characters. People need to get the fuck over themselves. Sam Wilson is a perfectly valid replacement for Steve Rogers. I mean, the only thing that he's lacking is the super soldier serum, and they actually addressed that in the movie. So that's something that is it's something that when they decided they were going to get rid of Cap, they kind of had to replace him with somebody. So I don't see why anybody would care whether it was now. Now I do say at the beginning I thought that it should have gone to Bucky Barnes first because that's what happened in the comics. You first had Captain America be Steve Rogers, and then when he was shot at the end of Civil War, he was then this was in the comics, not in the movies. He was then replaced with Bucky Barnes, who was the most logical choice because super soldier serum. I mean, he was the Winter Soldier, sure, but he was also a good reflection of Obama at the time in that he practically went around making apologies for all of the bad things that he had done in the past. And so it was almost like Bucky Barnes's Captain America was a metaphor for Obama's America at the time. He was doing an apology tour the same way that Obama was. And then later, of course, they brought Steve Rogers back. But then in another series by Rick Remender, they brought in Sam Wilson as Captain America. And I guess, the Marvel people were just basically saying, let's just skip to that. Okay. I think it probably could have gone through a transition either way from one to the other, but whatever. Why didn't they just make a Falcon movie? Well, they already made the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. So the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I mean, did you miss that on Disney Plus? That where they already, upgraded Sam Wilson to be Captain America? Because that ship has already sailed. So There's no sense complaining about that now, and I don't have a problem with him being in the role. If Chris Evans isn't going to do it, then Anthony Mackie's a great replacement for him. And I think that the way that they portrayed Sam Wilson in the movie made him an admirable Captain America. So, I don't have a problem with that at all. So anybody, if you noticed on top of the Captain America shield, I've got the words Rippazine #3. And the reason I've got Rippazine #3 is because that's what you all apparently want me to review next. I did take a poll. The poll lasted for about a week or so. And by the time it was done, the split was roughly even. The split was kind of like 60-40, but it was in favor of me going ahead and getting Rippazine #3. Now, Rippazine #3, of course, this is the Rippazine is the magazine that, God, I feel like I'm like staring down at this thing, and I don't know what the best angle for this to be is. Probably one that doesn't show my face, but the Rippazine is a hodgepodge of bullshit that basically has no real reason for existence. I have a hard time with the very existence of the Rippazine just because it is such a badly executed idea. I mean, they've had things like horoscopes in there. They have these kitchen recipes. They have, men's grooming tips or something, which Eric July is apparently taking now because he kind of cleaned up his beard. And I don't understand why anybody would even get this thing if it wasn't for the fact that it comes with a short story in there that I don't know is complete or not. That's one of the things that kind of made me not want to buy this Rippazine, and which is putting it on the Bribestream thing. By the way, I have got a goal set up where I'm basically asking, because here's the thing, $25, low watermark has already supplied $15. So he's already made a $15 contribution, and that is being applied to the $40 total that I need for the Rippazine #3. But I still need $25. So if you want to see a review of Rippazine #3, $25. Anybody who's watching this after the fact, you can donate that in the form of super thanks. Anybody who's on now has the option of sending in super chats, and I've got a goal set up of $5 super chats. I don't know if that's that. I mean, that'll basically get me to $25, and at that point, we're there. But if anybody wants to donate more than that, of course, that'll get us there that much sooner. Let's see. Now I've just triggered the option to send a super chat to myself. No, I'm not going to cheat like that. Sonic Man says all 3 of the Rippazines have first appearances of characters. That is why the fans buy it. This is true. You've got Salvage, you've got Saoirse, and that was before, though, we knew that they were going to be getting their own books. I don't know, given the fact that Dirty Deeds, which is the new story that's coming out in Rippazine #3, I don't know if people are going to be as inclined to buy the Rippazine when probably what's going to happen is Dirty Deeds, the Dirty Deeds story that's printed there is going to get reprinted in in its own book that comes out later. Just like for Salvage, PI, and for Saoirse, their stories that appeared in the Rippazine are going to be reprinted in their own individual books. Oh God, I hope I don't have to read those. It's going to depend on y'all too. So Dirty Deeds. I almost thought that maybe I should get this one and just go ahead and plunk down for it. The problem is that I really don't want to get a magazine just for a bunch of previews that I'm already going to have the comic books for by the time I get them, with the exception of ISOM #3. And this Dirty Deeds story that is probably going to be reprinted later on. I mean, it just feels like a waste of money. So it's not going to be a waste of mine. That's basically what I'm saying. If you want to see me review this Dirty Deeds story, which is written by Carol Brown and drawn by, I don't even know, then definitely donate to the cause. I need $25 to hit that goal. Poomfist says first appearances of characters nobody gives a crap about. Let's be honest, the Rippaverse is never expanding beyond July's YouTube subs. Probably true. Probably true. Sonic Man says the Rippazine is the dollar store version of Marvel Age. That's almost an insult to Marvel Age. I mean, I never read Marvel Age back in the day. I mean, I might have picked up one or two issues because I didn't know what it was. And then when I saw it, what it was like, why the hell would anybody even read this book? So I feel kind of the same way about Rippazine that I did about Marvel Age back in the day. And Marvel Age had a lot better content because they would talk to Marvel's editors in chief. They would talk to some of the writers, some of the inkers, some of the pencilers, and they would actually talk to some persons of note. Which is not to say that Rippazine hasn't done the same thing, but I don't think they had as much stupid stuff in there as Rippazine does. I mean, my God, to have a horoscope that doesn't even cover all 12 months of the year, that's pretty freaking dumb. To have these these gossipy little things said that are supposed to tie into the various Rippaverse titles, and you kind of have to hunt and peck for which ones apply to which characters. That's not even fun. There's nothing really about the Rippazine that appeals to me anymore. I mean, originally I was thinking, oh, cool, well, maybe this will be worth a read, and then I got the first one and I was like, oh God. So let's talk about that ISOM #3 trailer. Oh my God. I wanted to make a video of it, but honestly, it's just too boring of a trailer to even care about. I mean, it starts out with somebody making a call to Avery Silman on presumably his cell phone. And then he basically says, if this is a customer, please contact Sanford Williard, and doesn't even give a phone number for Sam. And I'm just like, seriously? We've been we've been on hold for 18 months for the next episode of ISOM #3, and for the next episode of ISOM, and now the ISOM 3 trailer comes out, and we're on hold is basically how the trailer starts. Then it goes and it shows a picture of Avery Silman actually holding the phone to his ear as the message is going on. It's like, dude, did you call yourself? It doesn't even make sense. But then when the message comes on and starts recording, it's his sister Altona, and Altona is like, oh, Avery, don't go off and do something stupid. Don't go fighting Darren. Don't go doing this. I'm safe. Everyone's safe. There's no need for this. I'm like, it sounds like the trailer is trying to disprove the need for the existence of a third ISOM comic book. We don't need a third comic book, Avery. It's okay. We're good. We're good with just your catastrophe that was ISOM #2. Let's just cut it off there. Your niece is going to be fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Don't even worry about it. This is all good. That was the actual tone of the trailer. What in the hell? That doesn't sell books. What idiot came up with that idea? If you want, I want to know what Avery's thinking. I don't want to know what Altona's thinking. I want to know what's going to be coming up in the book next, other than just the stuff about Darren, because they were showing, if I'm not mistaken, they were showing pictures of some of the art from ISOM #3. And some of that art looked like he was fighting more Hellions. And we get nothing of that in any of course, Altona doesn't know anything about the Hellions, so why should she say anything about that? So I don't know where these people's minds were when they were developing this trailer. It's like ever since ISOM 2, the trailer for ISOM #2 was the only trailer I've seen that did a really good job of selling the book, of getting you excited, of making you think, okay, I really want to see what's coming up in this comic. Everything since that has been crap. And like, what happened? What happened to the person who did the first trailer for them? What happened for the person who did the ISOM #2 trailer? I want that person writing all the other trailers that happen from now on. I don't want copies of words that come from the comic. because the comics generally suck, and it doesn't suck any less when it's an animation. Wha Why would you what when you've done something right, why do you throw away what you did right? Let's see. Sonic Man says Marvel Age was only 25 cents in 1982 when comic books were 60 cents. It was a good deal. If you see it as a back issue, buy it. Well, I mean, I'm not going to buy it today because what stories were in Marvel Age that I really need to see now. Uh, let's see. Puma Fist said Altoona is a town in Florida. Well, it's Altona, I'm pretty sure. Sonic Man says Avery looks older in ISOM number 3. Perhaps the next issue will be called Old Man ISOM number 1. Yeah, I don't think we're in the Logan days just yet. Puma Fist says Eric July's mind is on doing the bare minimum to get simps to cough up their fun bucks to him, which is especially true when we're talking about the what do you call it? The memberships. Oh my God, have you seen the membership program? It's terrible. I don't understand why anybody even bothers with that stuff, because you have to buy practically 200 bucks of merchandise per month if you're going to make something out of that, because the minor tiers are just crap. There's no reason to even be a member of the $5 tier or the $10 tier. It's only when you get into the $20 tier that you start getting free shipping if your orders cost $75 or more. And that itself is insane. I mean, really? You are not going to provide free shipping for the people who are paying you 20 fucking bucks a month? Oh my God. 20 fucking bucks a month, and they will not defray your shipping costs. I do not. What value is it supposed to be providing? I don't even know. 96 Below has a $2 super chat for the review. Thank you very much. $2 super chat. That means we need $23. $23 remaining until I have got the funds established for a purchase and review of Rippazine number 3. Puma, Puma Fist says for $200 a month. Ooh, I don't know. Oh God, that's kind of a sick thing to say. For $200 a month, July's wife better come to my house and blow me. That's terrible. Don't be saying stuff about that. Leave the poor woman out of it. She was given enough crap just for having her ad inserted in ISOM number 1, which might have actually had a negative effect on his company overall, because to put an ad into your comic means you cannot send things by media mail if there's any advertising in there. So she probably cost him money with that, because he could have taken advantage of media mail shipping. He didn't have any other comics to advertise at the time. So he could have taken advantage of some really cheap shipping for his first time out, and for him to include that ad in there. I mean, it was at least a well-placed ad. It happened right after the what was it, the impact with the taxi. Now you have a good break point. Tehillim 29 says shalom and good to see you all. Good to see you. So yeah, that ISOM number 3 trailer was just miserable. And the covers are not that good either for the comic. I looked at all 4 covers. In fact, let me bring that up, and I'll just describe what the covers are, or you can follow along at home. Rippaverse.com. ISOM number 3, learn more. And let's go down to where you can pre-order one of these 4 supposedly delicious covers. And the first cover is probably the cover that I'll be buying to keep. That is the one with Avery fighting Darren on the cover. And somebody said that this looked like a copy of Wolverine versus Deadpool or something. And I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't immediately get the reference myself, but it's not a very. I mean, you got Altona on the phone, which is right in keeping with the stupid trailer. You've got ISOM in kind of a tattered costume, and you've got Darren, who's got some guns and he's shooting at ISOM, and it's not really an exciting cover. And that was the one done by, uh, that was by Kanan White. I mean, it's probably the best of the four, but it's still not that good. The retro cover is just the lamest damn thing. You've got ISOM sitting by himself in a chair next to a window, and you've got text over the image. He's got a family photo, and there's text saying, "Can Avery overcome his greatest foe, himself?" Nobody wants to see that. Okay, we want to see him actually fight a villain and win, because we haven't really seen that yet. I mean, we saw Santuan get pummeled. I mean, that's one thing. He's not down for the count because obviously he was in ISOM number 2, where basically he just refused to give information to Darren, and then Darren sent him away and said, "You're not going to get very good employment in this town anymore," which is like the lamest freaking threat I've ever heard from like a mob kingpin. And apparently there's something wrong with Avery's powers. Why would there be something wrong with his powers? How would we know if there's something wrong with his powers? Because we don't even know what his freaking powers are. I think that his powers have something to do with being able to absorb other people's abilities. He's got natural strength. He's got natural durability. But otherwise, he basically gets his powers from the enemies that he encounters. In ISOM number 1, he took speed from Yaira and he used it against Santuan. In ISOM number 2, he used the internal combustion explosion power of the Devilings to propel himself upward and out of their lair. And now, apparently, there's going to be problems with his powers. So, who freaking knows? But one of the things that really kind of depresses me is the fact that you've got another little blurb that says, "Introducing Max Salient and the Savage Lepredo." I really didn't need any new characters in this fucking book. I mean, why do you have to throw everything in the kitchen sink in every one of these issues? I mean, and we also see that Bloodruth's making a return. Why? Do we need that right now? I mean, we need a book that wraps up the Darren storyline. That's basically all we need. And we can push the whole Devilings and Hellions thing over into ISOM number 4, if that's ever going to come out. But we don't need new characters for all this. I mean, why don't you make some use out of the characters that you've already got? You got Lincoln Eusebio, who's kind of a wild card. You've got you even got Larry Shungite, for God's sake. You've got Darren. You've got the Devilings and the Deviling King, or whatever the hell that thing is. You got Shadron, who has not yet made a return appearance. So what in the hell are you doing introducing even more characters? And is this Lepredo supposed to be a villain? Or is this supposed to be... And he's not even on the freaking page or on the cover. You have a guy sitting in a chair as your cover. That's supposed to be like, "Introducing Max Salient and the Savage Lepredo." And, he's just in a chair looking sad. It's just pathetic. Oh, what else we got? Then we got the hella expensive $75 Will Conrad cover. Now, Will Conrad is a good artist, and he's got a thing going where it looks like ISOM is confronting this Lepredo. That, the name is on the other cover, but the character itself, it looks like he's here. Yeah, I mean, this is a fairly okay cover. And then the last one is, for some reason, he's punching the ground as he's running. And there's an oil derrick in the background. I don't know why. Okay, that's enough joy with that. Good Lord. Let's see. Tellurium 29. $20 USB is probably around 30 AUD, not affordable even for Australia. That's for Rippazine number 3. Yeah, well, of course, you've also got the shipping costs to worry about. Puma Fist says, ISOM number 1 started with ISOM and his sister on the phone. This is true. Okay, maybe we're circling back a little. TLM29, when talking about the Rippaverse catastrophic membership. Oh, you're talking about the the $20 a month membership. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Um, does ISOM have erectile issues? I hope not. Yeah, hymns can help. Pumafist says his powers are bullshit, just like the writing and the art. July doesn't know how to make comics. That's why it's shit. Sonic Man says, so far, ISOM number 3 is on track to make less money than ISOM number 1 in its first 24 hours. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, has it even been, or I guess it's only been, it'll be about 48 hours at this point. I didn't even bother to see how much it had collected by now. Let me check and see what it's showing on mine. So on mine, it's showing it's getting close to 250,000. It's at 246,000 in total sales. And honestly, I'm surprised it even has that much. I wonder how the Great War of Separation is doing. I'm going to look at that one too. Great War of Separation is up to 184,000. So that one hasn't even broken 200,000 yet. That's the freaking origin story of the Rippaverse, people. What in the hell? You would think that there would be more interest from Rippaverse fans, but maybe it's true that they're all interested in seeing Eric July write something as opposed to seeing Chuck Dixon write something. Maybe that's why they're not buying in. Let's see here. Boomfist says nobody should be paying $75 up front for a copy of a comic that is never going to retain its value. Yeah, I mean that to me is not a $75 cover. That to me is a perfectly decent $30 cover. I mean, I'd probably, or $35 cover. I probably would have bought that as my primary cover, the one that I'll be buying, if it weren't $75. I'm not paying $75 for a cover. That's ridiculous. Uh yeah. I'm just gonna have to stick with the one that Caden White drew, even though it's probably not really the best one. But I don't know what to say about it. All I know is 144 pages. That thing's going to be packed with everything but the kitchen sink, and it may have the kitchen sink in there too. That may be the next Rippaverse superhero is Kitchen Sink Man. That fruit was too low hanging to even pluck. I think that fruit was spoiled on the vine. What else has been going on Rippaverse wise? Oh God, the BLOODRUTH Goof. Oh Lord. Let's see, Cowboy Bebop says, I saw it says a lot that Eric priced his comics more than Chuck's comic. Well, it is 144 pages, as opposed to the Great War of Separation, which is, now I got to look it up again. Okay, so if I look at the Great War of Separation, how many pages is that? 56 pages. So what's 56 over 144? So it's roughly a third. 56 divided by 144. That amounts to 38%. So about 40%, say 35. 35 times 0.4. And that'll get you a $14 comic. So I would say that the price ratio is okay in terms of how many pages you're getting, bang for the buck, and all that. The one thing that I still don't understand, though, is why when you have these 4 covers, and you notice he does this on ISOM, but he doesn't do it on Great War of Separation or the Yaira number 2. Great War of Separation, the prices range from $18 for covers A and B to $30 for cover C, down to $14 if you get cover D. Why would you ever reduce your price to $14 for cover D? Why would you give people a cheap option or a cheaper option on that particular book? I mean, you've got these 3 covers. Why wouldn't you price them all equally? I do not understand this, because I know it's the mass market cover, but at the same time, it's your pre-order campaign. If you want to drop the price on something later on, that's fine, but you don't want to do it during the campaign, do you? Or does it make sense, or is he going to raise the price after the campaign? I don't even know. Uh, it just doesn't seem to make much sense to me. Now, you notice that he doesn't do this on ISOM number one. On ISOM number one, I'm sorry, ISOM number three, he doesn't do this. All of his regular print books, all of his regular cover books are $35. He does not make the mass market cover $30 or $25. He makes it 35, just like the other ones. I don't understand why the Great War of Separation or Yaira number two are any different. Let's see. Boomfist says variant covers are code for a shitty product. I hate that variant covers are all the rage these days. I mean, when I go through the comic book shop whose site I follow to see what the new releases are every week, it bothers the hell out of me that today you have to page through like 9 pages of previews entries in order to get past all of the variant covers. If you took out all of the variant covers, you would probably have about 5 pages to go through. But because they put in all these different variant covers, and I mean, they'll come out with like 8 different variant covers for one comic, and you wind up expanding your listings to about 9 pages. And I get so tired of that. I just want to see. I wish the site had something where it's like just show one cover of each. I don't like rifling through all that, and I don't need to have all that many choices, especially when some of these choices are going to be buku expensive. Sonic Man says, I have been buying some Marvel Epic collections. Those are excellent. A much better value for your dollar than a single Rippaverse comic book, and the stories are better too. Yeah, the very first one of the very first videos I did on ISOM number one was the fact that I paid $50 in shipping, tax, and the price of the book for ISOM number one, and I got this thin little book. And at around the same time, I got Incredible Hulk, Epic Collection number 4 or something, that thick, for $50 as well. I mean, including the shipping and the tax. So yeah, that's a significant difference in terms of what you're getting for your buck. Now, of course, Marvel's able to do that because they're reprinting. It's not actual first printing, so they're not having to pay somebody to draw all this stuff. That's why they're able to pack so much into that volume. But still, if you're wanting to read stuff you haven't read before, and the Epic collections are just an awesome format. When I first found out about those things, the one of the first ones that I bought was the Hulk Epic Collection number 1. And the beautiful thing about that book is that in the beginning, the Hulk only had 6 issues of his own series. He was introduced in Incredible Hulk number 1, and that had a 6-issue run and then was canceled. And then later on, he would appear in Tales to Astonish, I think. Tales to Astonish or Tales of Suspense, one of the two. And there were other places, however, where the Hulk would make an appearance. He made an appearance in Amazing Spider-Man 14. He made an appearance in a couple of appearances in Fantastic Four. Of course, he had some appearances in Avengers. And he was a founding member of the Avengers. So Avengers 1, 2, 3, and 5 he was in. And the Epic Collection for Incredible Hulk number 1 collected all of those different appearances. And so you actually get to see the Hulk do his run through not just his own title, but through all of the other titles in chronological order to end up where his series ended up. And that was awesome. I was like, I can't get enough of collections like this. This is wonderful stuff. And then, of course, the next volume, Incredible Hulk Epic Collection Volume 2, started off the Tales to Astonish stuff, and that's where you kind of got to see Glenn Talbot come into the picture, and he would last for another 8 volumes of that series. Let's see. Helium 29, it would be nice to see the Rippaverse succeed, but until he gets his universe and editing in order, it's finding the closest op shop to get rid of it and buy it for cheap. Cowboy Bebop says, Rippaverse trying to appeal to the speculator market is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. Poomfist says, July's books should have no ads in them. Well, I mean, in terms of his first book, probably yes, but in terms of his next books, you kind of want your books to try to sell the other books. Now, one way you could do that that wouldn't involve putting ads in the books is if you had like editor's notes that said things like, it makes a reference to ISOM number one, and you can say, star, see ISOM number one, and that's a way of selling the book within the book. Uh, but you wouldn't have to do that otherwise. Or you wouldn't have to do that through a placed ad, in other words. Let's see. Sonic Man. Absolutely. You can get a good omnibus of the Punisher for like $15, and the stories and art are way better. Tealum29 says, I purchased the Marvel Epic Collection of the Moon Knight series. Damn incredible. Yeah, I got the first 3 volumes of that, and then I stopped there because the Moon Knight, what was it? The Fist of Khonshu series? That thing was like gross. I mean, I don't know what the hell they were doing when they started that. And then Mark Spector Moon Knight, where he was just basically getting rid of his personalities. And they weren't really personalities back in the day. I mean, he played it up as if they were, and you could tell there was a little bit of mental instability to him, but he was not really a split personality back in the day. Not to the extent that he's portrayed as such today. That was something that Brian Bendis really brought to the character. First in the Ultimate series, I think, and then really heavily into the regular Marvel universe. Boomafist says Cowboy Bebop. Exactly. He's artificially trying to turn it into a collector's item. Real Nerdy Review says Mikey. Okay, so that's where we're at now. Oh my God, the Bloodruth Goof. The Bloodruth Goof. My gosh. Just absolutely brilliant. And a reminder, by the way, everybody, I've got a target goal up, trying to get 5 super chats of $5 each. We're $23 away from the target goal of getting me a copy of Rippazine number 3 to review. That's got Dirty Deeds by Carol Brown. So she's going to be the first actual Rippaverse employee that's not really a contractor. She's going to be writing her own story for the Rippaverse. So yeah, that's some people are moving up in the world. Sonic Man says Bloodruth is the comic where Eric messed up the page order, right? Yes, that is the one where he is claiming that as an experiment gone wrong, they published a double page spread on the front and back of the same page. Yeah. Who's buying that? Really? I mean, who's even buying that? I hate to just say it's BS, but what? It's BS. I mean, it just is. I mean, the fact that he would try to pass that off as anything just other than a rank, we didn't catch this mistake, and is instead trying to be like, this was a creativity thing gone wrong. It might have been that after the mistake was made, he came and looked at it and said, well, why don't we go with this anyway, rather than pulp the books that we've got in and see if it goes over well. But dear heaven, why would you do that? It's almost like, and he talked about how he said it looked better in black and white than it did in color. And what that leads me to believe is that once the black and white book was done, or that once the black and white art was done, I almost feel like he must have said, okay, let's just pull the trigger on those books and get those printed right away. And then that's when he saw the problem with them. And it was like, okay, either I've got to pulp all these books that I just got in that I was going to sell on the cheap, and then I'm going to have to, send corrections over to the publisher and get the colorist, to I don't know, maybe rearrange his files. I don't know what all the effort was going to be involved in correcting this screw up, but it must have been something too cost prohibitive to try, because I cannot imagine going out there with egg on your face like that. Why would you do that? I mean, why would you do that to yourself unless you just didn't have the money to fix it? And that's one of the reasons why I think Rippaverse is in more trouble than it is, because I don't think this was any kind of experiment. This that's just an excuse. What this was just a plain old page count screw up that they're too cost conscious to fix, and that may signal that they're in more dire straits than they're letting on. Let's see, real nerdy review. I'm going to be selective when it comes to Rippaverse. I would like to be. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's stuff. A lot of the stuff that he's been publishing so far, I've gone ahead and gotten. So now Yaira number 2, of course, I got that through super chats on here, and so I'm also looking to get Rippazine number 3 through super chats on here. Still $20 to $3 away on that, and but the Great War of Separation, I went ahead and bought that. ISOM number 3, I'll go ahead and buy that. I don't know what his next book's going to be. It's probably going to be Norfolka, maybe, or maybe it's going to be one of the Saska's books. Oh, I don't know on those Saska books. I don't know whether I want to buy those or not. Oh, God. I mean, part of me is like, I don't want to. I wouldn't want to miss those books if they actually showed something that was real and pertinent in the background of the characters. But if the book were just to be about Michael Copper manipulating some guy to do some terrible things and you didn't learn anything about Michael Copper other than how evil he is or something like that, that would be a wasted book. And the same thing with Lillian Renashi. If her book is about seeing the players on the board and nudging one and showing how the dominoes affect it, just shows how evil she is. That's not interesting to me either. I want to see like origin details or something, something that's going to tell me about this character. Give me something to explore. Give me something else. Give me a fact or something that I can lodge in my brain other than, ooh, look at this person do this evil thing. I don't need that. It's almost like when people come up with in the DC or Marvel universes have these stories where villains, do evil things. It's like, so, you don't create any, if you don't create any supporting cast, if you don't create any world that these characters are actually developing within, then you don't have a story there. They have to have a real impact on the world that isn't just, oh, look at evil person doing evil things. Cowboy Bebop says, why did Eric edit the Bloodruth comic himself if he has an art editor on his team? I mean, he's the editor in chief, so everything should really pass by him so that he can give it final review. I mean, seriously, how long does it take to read one of your own comics? Or one of your company's comics, and don't you want to catch whatever problems there are on the way out? But yeah, I mean, well, their editors have always been crap. I mean, look at the Mick Davies thing. I mean, where you had a black detective named Mick Davies in Alpha Core number 1, or not Alpha Core number 1, Horseman, Welcome to Florespark. This is a black detective who had previously referred to as Detective Johnson in Alpha Core number 1, but I guess the black detectives in Florespark all look alike, so you could just kind of interchange them and say, well, that was a different guy. But now you've got a black detective named Mick Davies in Horseman, and Mick Davies is the name of Florespark's white police chief. So either you've got two different guys who are named Mick Davies, or somebody screwed up. And the answer, of course, is that somebody screwed up. And Chuck Dixon didn't know that Mick Davies was someone else. And actually, if you go to the Rippaverse website, you will see that Mick Davies is defined there as a detective. Now, he's defined as a white detective, so I don't know exactly how, Joe Bennett or whoever was coloring the guy. But I think it's Joe Bennett both, and because he remembers from what he drew before who Callie's partner was. And it was the black detective. So Chuck Dixon, thought that was Mick Davies. Well, But somebody should have caught that. I mean, that's what editors are there for. Somebody should have caught the fact that one of the characters was named wrongly. I mean, if you can't catch that, then what business do you have being an editor? Sonic Man says if you pulp the comic, he may have still been able to list it as a tax write-off. Well, I mean, yeah, there's probably financial ways to get around that kind of stuff. Uh Talem 29 says, how are things going with the Jon Del Arroz books? He's got his next book is called The Emerald Array. It's the third book in his Terran Imperium comic series. I do have that on order, so I will be receiving a copy of that. He's also got two novels in the series, and the Emerald Array, which I think is the name of his Space Marine group. They're actually introduced in one of the novels called Into the Black, and that I kind of skimmed that novel. It's still pretty flat. I mean, the emotional content of the books is flat, is what I'm finding. I don't see these characters as being their old relationships, the relationships that bind them before the adventures that we get to see. It's not clear how these characters really feel about each other, and I don't know how all of this stuff is really supposed to fit together. I'm kind of hoping that the Emerald Array shows a little bit more depth of his being able to handle, first and foremost, a larger group of characters, but also to give them distinct personalities, and so they relate to each other in certain ways that make them more readily definable, where you're not just, that guy's named that guy, that guy's named that guy's named that, but who are these characters really? I'm kind of hoping that there's that kind of depth to the characters in there. We'll see. We'll see. If I'm not impressed with this particular one, I probably won't be buying any more of the Terran Imperium series. I'll probably wait for something else to come along from him. Cowboy Bebop, in my opinion, the only Rippaverse comics worth getting are by Chuck Dixon and Mike Baron. How the absolute living hell do you think that Gooding the Polymath was worth getting? Holy freaking God. And as far as Chuck Dixon's books, honestly, Horseman struck me as completely forgettable. I did not think that Horseman was something that I haven't even read it a second time since my reviews. I mean, what's in there that I really want to see? Nothing. There's probably more in Alpha Core that I could find to get interested in, but even now, I'm not really tempted to go back and look through that either. Oh, Puma Fist says I'd read the book. I'd read the books if the asshole would make them cheap. Well, I mean, $14 is not hellaciously expensive. Puma Fist says you can't demand top dollar for untested products. Well, $14 is not really top dollar these days. The Rippaverse is headed for the same fate as the Cybertruck. I saw a Cybertruck today. I mean, I don't know if the Cybertruck's going anywhere. Let's see. Pumavis says JD AIDS is a terrible person and writer. Well, I don't know that he's a terrible writer. Terrible person. I mean, I think he's kind of morally and ethically slippery, and I think, yeah, I wouldn't trust him. I wouldn't trust him farther than I could throw him. But as far as his writing skills goes, I don't know. I mean, he's got a significant number of novels under his belt, so you can't say that he's not a fairly prolific writer. And he has done well to capture. I mean, if you look at my video that I did on Jon Del Arroz's early web comics, which turns out they're actually early comics of his that were converted into web comics. I did not know that. I'm more familiar with comics that started as web comics and then got converted into comics, because that happens too. But he has several earlier comics, and honestly, they're not that bad. I think probably Dynamite Thor was the most interesting one, just because he really does kind of capture that goofy, loosey goosey spirit of the golden age, when the heroes were doing kind of insane things and it was just taken for granted. So when you see Dynamite Thor actually use dynamite to propel himself out of his hotel room by blowing up the hotel room behind him, it's funny, because he's actually capturing that whole golden age. Yeah, yeah, this stuff happens, like running along telephone wires and all that kind of stuff. Uh, Cowboy Bebop says, "What is your opinion on Rippasend?" And Cowboy and Puma Fist is asking, "What is Rippasend?" And Kyle Gluckin says, "That's Eric's comic book fulfillment company." And Cowboy Bebop elaborates, "It's another company by Eric that helps publish books." Um, yeah, the Rippasend thing, I don't. It all depends on how much money he's actually able to grab out of that. He might wind up finding out that it's just not worth his time, but it may wind up being a way that he can at least keep some semblance of his company functioning. I have a feeling he wouldn't be doing it if he wasn't grabbing a profit from it in some way. But is it really enough to be worth all the time and energy that's invested into those things? I mean, that's debatable. I think Ethan Van Sciver's basically said that, yeah, that's one of the reasons he doesn't do anything like that, because it just takes too much time away from his primary business. And whether that's true of Rippaverse, I don't know. Invariant 47 says, ISOM 3 trailer review already done. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have too terribly much to say about that, other than it was, I mean, it doesn't sell the book. In fact, it does the opposite of sell the book. First of all, it starts by putting you on hold when we've already been on hold for 18 months. You are on hold and you hear Eric July's answering machine, or not Eric July's, Avery Selman's answering machine message. And Altona is like all frustrated saying, "Avery, don't do anything. Don't do anything. Don't do anything." It's almost like, don't publish this book. Please don't publish this book. Let's let it lie. We found Jasmine and she's alive, and that's all we need to know. And Darren's never going to attack me again. Just please let it end now. We don't need an ISOM number 3, is basically the message throughout the trailer. I don't know why. I don't know who it is that's writing this shit. It doesn't make any sense. Invariant 47 says he's a rip-offer. Cowboy Bebop says, Gooding isn't good, mostly because I have a strong suspicion that Eric was more hands-on on that book than he led on. As for Alpha Core and Horseman, I honestly just bought because of Chuck and Joe. I have it on good authority that Gooding was largely unaltered from what Mike Barron wrote. So if you're gonna, if Gooding was not good, you have to lay that at the feet of Mike Barron. Yeah, that's just really the long and short of it. I originally was in the camp with you because I honestly thought that what had happened was that Mike Barron turned in this much more verbose script for a 96-page book, and they looked at that and said, well, we don't want to publish the whole thing of this. We just want to publish the first half as Gooding the Polymath. So we'll chop it in half, we'll bloat it up, and we'll sell that as a 64-page book. I honestly thought that was what had happened. It's not what happened. Mike Barron basically turned in that book exactly as it appears, with very, very minor changes. So, I was completely wrong about that. And I already, put up a pinned comment under that video saying, I got this one wrong. But yeah, I mean, it basically stands or falls on him. And it falls. It falls pretty sharply. It's not, I highly recommend Ethan Van Sciver's review of that book, by the way. It's hilarious as hell. Poofus says JDA has no talent. Jon Del Arroz has no talent. He's good at shit posting. That's it. No, I mean, I can't really say that. If he is actually responsible for the books and the comics that he's put out so far, the adaptations that he's done, and his own original work, I would say that he's got at least some talent. and he stands to be able to improve on it. But I would not go to say that he has no talent. I mean, that to me is just not true at all. Kyle Cluckin says, "Don't know why you would go with Rippasend, where you could go with Critical Blast, who you know are going to do it properly." Yeah, it's all who you know, and maybe what prices can be offered. I'm not familiar with Critical Blast, so I have never tried to publish a comic book through them or anything like that. I mean, my one attempt at publishing a comic book was back in 1998 or something, and that only lasted that was direct through Diamond, and that didn't last very long. Uh, Boomfist says you're going to stay on hold in that ISOM #3 trailer because Eric July has no talent. Um, Boomfist says Mike Baron had one of the best writing runs on the Punisher. He's one of my favorites, but he has lost the script. His time has passed. Well, it depends. I mean, I do have his book on Sherlock Holmes, his next comic, that's Sherlock Holmes and Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I will be reviewing that. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't necessarily know that. I just saw an issue of Florida Man out there, and when I was looking at that, I was like, why isn't Gooding the Polymath at least this good? And all I can think is that Eric July wouldn't know good when he sees it, so Mike Baron can turn in whatever the hell he wants. Now, of course, Mike Baron himself has said, I don't let anything, leave the house unless it's A grade. But really, is that what you're really going to say about Gooding? I You have to explain some pages to me before I would even buy that. Cowboy Bebop says to Puma Fist, to be frank, he could have just phoned it in when writing Gooding and was just doing it for the money instead of the love of the craft. Considering the finished product, it's definitely possible to assume that. Amaze12 said, I actually really liked what Mike Baron did with Gooding, just felt a bit too short. Uh, to me, it felt a bit too short of being an actual story. There was really, I mean, what was there in Gooding? He's a really intelligent kid who immediately overcomes a bully who's assailing him. Bully goes off to military and becomes a hired killer, and he with powers. And then Gooding becomes a tech genius, and Gooding defeats the bully later back on. It sounds good. Probably sounds good when I say it like that, but that's because you don't know the details. And when you look at the details, when you look at how the book was actually written, it's like, why? I mean, it did not hit. Amaze12, main issue was it didn't show Gooding struggle enough. That is very, very true. That is very true. I mean, the guy basically has no issues. I mean, practically sleepwalks through the whole book. Puma Fist says, Cowboy Bebop, you're probably right. It doesn't change the fact that he's just past his prime. Same with Chuck Dixon. I think in both of their cases, I almost want to say maybe they're used to having someone who's an editor throw stuff back at them and say, we need changes to this and this and this. And there's just nobody competent enough at Rippaverse to do that. So it could be that they really do think that they're turning in, some of their best work, but they only think that because it's accepted without protest, because nobody there at Rippaverse knows enough to protest it and say, well, this isn't even internally consistent, like in the case of Alpha Core #1. Or, we need a little bit something that's a little less Deus Ex Machina as an ending for Horseman #1. There's plenty of things wrong with those books that should have been returned and saying, why does this page even here? Why does this character sprain his ankle? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? I mean, there's challenges that could have been made throughout, Horseman, throughout Gooding, and nobody made challenges. Kyle Cluckin says Critical Blast Logistics has been around much longer and has built themselves to specialize in crowdfunding fulfillment. They do the same stuff Rippaverse is doing, just with a lot more experience. Poomfist said, absolutely, Mike, I guess to what I was just saying. Kyle Clucken says, Mike Barron does do good work in other comics, and Dixon writes well for Graham Nolan. They only do crap work for Eric because they're working with garbage characters in a poorly designed universe. I would probably say that if Mike Barron and Mike Barron and Chuck Dixon were really applying themselves, they'd be able to turn the properties that Eric July is giving them into much better characters than they've so far delivered on. I don't think enough thought has gone into these characters. And I would not, Chuck Dixon, if Chuck Dixon wrote Joe Frankenstein for Graham Nolan, and I was not impressed by that series. I mean, I felt like Frankenstein was kind of without a personality, and there were just kind of little errors. If you want to look at my video, I did a video reviewing the preview of Joe Frankenstein, and that's out there to see. So go ahead and look that up. But there were things in there that I was just like, why is this happening? Why did that person say this? Why would these vampires order a garlic pizza? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Amaze12 says, do you think any of the upcoming Rippaverse books will be any good from what they showed off? Not from what they've showed off. I really don't have any confidence on that basis, because they haven't really showed that much that's in those books. I assume you're referring to the Rippaveal video, and I've got a live stream where I kind of looked at that video and kind of evaluated the various offerings there. I do not have much confidence in anything other than I am interested to see what happens with Norfrika, because Eric July is going to bring some of his experience from being in a band into Norfrika, what it's like to be on the road, what it's like to encounter different people on the road. I think there's probably more potential in that book, just because, number one, he's writing it, and number two, it comes a lot from, or some of it's going to come a lot from his own life experiences dealing with people on the road and singing in a band. So I'm more curious about that than anything else. The rest of the stuff that's out there, or that's being rumored to come, I'm just kind of falling flat. I mean, there might be something to this Zalen, what kills must die, although I'm still just pissed as hell that nobody there knows anything about basic punctuation, so that they can know that there is no comma between what kills and must die. That is not how commas work. Okay, you do not separate a subject from a verb with commas. You don't. And I wish somebody would say something. Not enough people are saying something. GamerDude.23, but Eric July's band sucks. Well, so they're still a band. They still go on the road. That's the real thing. Tehillim29 says, so Eric July's version of Josie and the Pussycats. Poomfist says, July's band was a piece of shit. Just imagine how great the Norfolk comic would be. And Norfolk is a fucking stupid ass name. Well, I would say he's come up with a lot dumber. I mean, Max Salient, that was the one of the ones that's on the cover of ISOM number 3 now. How about all those Y names in Yaira with Stefania and Jeremiah for Jeremiah Braxwell, and it's spelled with an MYA. I mean, what the fuck? Can't you just spell a name normal? Why do that? What do we got? Invariant 47 says, hack the Rippaverse. You didn't have computers and correct it. I'm too busy, swiping everybody's Ethereum off of that God, that exchange that just got milked for like $1.4 billion in Ethereum or something. Oh Lord, the people who are on that exchange are probably just crapping bricks. Honestly, I mean, cryptocurrency security just kind of freaks me out in that, you've got things on these exchanges, and now it turns out these exchanges are not immune from theft. And in order to really have control over your stuff, you practically have to, take it off the internet and store it in your house, which is crazy because there was an actual story about somebody who lived through the California wildfires, and he evacuated his house, but he did not take his hard wallet with him. And so the hard wallet, I don't know if y'all know much about how crypto works, but basically your hard wallet is what contains your private keys to your cryptocurrency that's stored online. There's a public key and there's a private key. When you have the private key that's stored on your wallet, then you need to have one of two things in order to access your Bitcoin or your crypto or whatever currencies you have. You need either the device itself, the hard wallet, or you need the passphrase that your hard wallet can be rebuilt with. So that if you enter your 25-word passphrase onto your hard wallet or onto a new hard wallet, it will recreate the wallet that you lost. So the problem with that is if anybody else knows that 25-word passphrase, then they can get at your crypto. So one thing that they always say is never put your security passwords online. Never do that, because if you do that, then somebody can get a hold of your security passwords and get a hold of if somebody gets into whatever document you've got online and is able to decipher your security words from there, then they can recreate your hard wallet on their own device and they can take all your money. So what people have generally done is they have created these, they will write down on pieces of paper their 25 words, and they'll store them in various places that they feel are safe. Well, guess what's not safe in a wildfire? Paper, and depending on how hot and for how long the fire burns, anything in a supposedly fireproof safe is going to be toast also. So this guy who had like his 25-word seed phrase hidden throughout his house on pieces of paper and his hard wallet in a fireproof safe that maximum is going to handle 2 hours worth of fire, he lost everything. And there's no getting it back. There's another story about a guy who put his private keys on a hard drive, and then he wound up throwing it in the trash, thinking that he was getting rid of an old hard drive instead of the one that had his private keys on it. And when that happened, it went to the landfill, and now he's been contesting with the city trying to get access to the landfill so he can dig up his hard drive and get that. And now he's actually the city denied him access to the landfill, and now he's actually trying to buy the landfill from the city because the apparently the money that he has on that drive is more than enough to make up for the cost of buying the landfill. And if he can just get that drive out of there, and he has no idea where it is in there, mind you, but if he can find it, then he's set. But oh my god, Puma Fist apparently heard of this, is made throughout the drive. Let me catch up on some of these comments here. Sonic Man says Norfolk, a comic about musicians, but books are a soundless medium. Well, Dazzler was a comic. Sonic Disruptors was a comic. What other musicians things? Shadow Man was about a jazz player. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, there's times when music has made its way into the comics somehow. Amaze 12. Zaylan and Great War look pretty cool to me. The Ira 2 might be a bit better, but the story was really messy for the first one, even though I liked some stuff with Solari in it. Yeah, I really didn't like it was obvious that Solari was going to be included in that book, but the problem that I see with the Rippaverse and how it treats Brian Solari is that Chuck Dixon writes him one way and everybody else writes him a different way. So they're already pretty freaking inconsistent with that. Pumafist says July's naming all his characters like Elon Musk's bastard kids. Oh yeah, I mean that one kid was actually in the White House, wasn't he? Amaze 12 said, or the crypto exchanges just donate your money to Democrats and fund degenerates. Uh, Invariant 47 is asking, are the demon monkeys part of the Great War of Separation? I have no idea. I think in ISOM number 2, Gooding is kind of explaining some stuff that's going on about invasions or incursions of these demon-like dimensions into the Rippaverse with that occurred during the Great War of Separation, but I don't know whether that's going to be in the book or not. Amaze 12 says probably won't have the demon monkeys in that. Great War will be dealing more with the origins of characters' powers and a shapeshifter villain. Yeah, there is a shapeshifter that's on there. Pre-ordered the first 3 volumes of Joe Frankenstein recently. Have you done reviews for those books? May check them out after I've read them. The only review that I've done, I think, is a review of the preview for Joe Frankenstein number 1. So you can look up that video on my channel. But I was not sufficiently impressed with what I read to buy any of those books. Now, as far as am I getting anything from Graham Nolan so far? I don't think I am. I am getting Wraith of God from Aaron Lopresti. I'm getting, I think I'm getting Black and White from Art T-Bear. I know I'm getting Godlike from John Malin and also Graveyard Shift. In Glorious Rex 1, I've already reviewed from Shane Davis, and I've got number 2, and I've already got number 2, and then number 3 is going to be on the way as soon as he closes down that campaign. So I've got a number of Comicsgate's books out there, but Graham Nolan is one that I have not. I did do a review of his what is it? Ghosts of Manacumba Key, the preview pages from that one as well. So that's another one where I at least gave it a cursory look, but that was another one that I didn't really want to read from there. Sonic Man says, any lyrics Norfolk sings will suck. If they were good lyrics, Eric July would be singing them in his real life band. Gamer Dude 23 with the $2 super chat. Thank you very much. We are $21 away now from a Rippazine number 3 review. So $21 away from me buying and reviewing Rippazine number 3. Pigman looks interesting. Will you be reading it? As much as I love Bosch Fawston being on Trashcast, I am not thrilled with the preview images that I've seen. It looks like some of his earlier work that's been kind of maybe slightly remastered for this new edition, but I don't. I almost want to say if I should probably hold a poll on that, and then hold a Bribestream for that. If anybody's really interested in seeing me review it, because that one, when I looked at the pages, I was just looking at the sequential art aspect of it and thinking it's kind of lacking. It kind of feels more like it feels kind of clunky when I look at those pages, and I think I would probably get frustrated reading it. And it would be it looks like it would be an interesting read, because especially of his own background in religion and of leaving Islam, and playing out against the person he could have been in the character of the brother whom he's contesting with. It's got kind of the meta aspect of it, the fact that it's kind of a comic book that plays on 2 levels, where he's not only just telling the story of these two brothers, and one of whom decides to create the Pigman character. That's what it sounds like this book is about. And then his brother, who gets really heavily involved into fundamentalist Islam, and becomes a danger to his own brother. It sounds like an interesting concept. It's just when I look at the pages, I fear for the execution of it. And I don't know if there's enough people who ask me to do it, and if they're willing to bribe me to do it, then I could probably do it. I just don't. It's not something I'm really keen on volunteering to do. Uh, yeah, sometimes it's hard dealing with Comicsgate because as much as I like Ethan Van Sciver and I think highly of his Cyberfrog work, um, a lot of the people who I've come across their work outside, Shane Davis's Inglorious Rex #1, I only gave that about a 5 or a 5.5. I can't remember which it was. It's like, yeah, y'all are like experienced comic book professionals. And Bosch Foston, by the way, I mean, one of his initial works was Eisner nominated. I think he was. I don't know if he won the Eisner for Best New Artist or Best New Talent at the Eisners, but he was at least nominated. And so you're dealing with accomplished people, and of course Shane Davis, he did Superman Earth 1 as well as various other DC and comics. John Malin, of course, had his work at Marvel and then Image, and maybe not in that order. It's hard sometimes to take the work of people that you've come to get to know and like, and then you're having to pick it apart. I mean, I do it because I'm interested in seeing what they've done, and when I buy it, I want to make sure that it's worthwhile not only to me but also to them to try and help them to improve on their work. But when I see something that's just kind of like, I might have too much to say on this particular thing. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. As soon as I get the money for Rippazine, assuming I can make that in the next 8 days or so. Right now we're sitting at $21 till the goal. Then maybe I'll have to look at doing Pigman, especially if people ask me about it, and maybe I'll run a poll and just see if that's what people want me to do. I must oblige. I must oblige my viewers. LMAE says, yep, the kid named after a jet was in the White House. Poomfist said that kid wiped his boogers all over Trump's desk and he's having fumigated. Amaze 12 said, really didn't like how Pigman looked. Yeah, that's just it, and it's not just necessarily the art style, but there was a scene that I saw where the two brothers are talking to each other, and it just felt like it was too much of a close-up panel where you had a couple of talking heads, and there wasn't enough to make kind of an establishing shot before that. And part of it too is also that I'm only seeing little clips of it. I mean, I don't think I'm seeing like a sequence of pages. I think I'm seeing just individual pages, and maybe if I saw the pages all in sequence, it would look better to me. But yeah, it's kind of hard. Pumafist says sometimes it's hard dealing with CG. They're a bunch of retarded assholes. I don't know about that. I follow Ethan and I follow Shane Davis, and those are pretty much the only two I'm following right now. But they seem like a bunch of generally good guys. Let's see. And Variant 47 says CG is mostly improvised. I mean, not sure what that means, but notice I'm getting a little bit of a fall off, which makes me wonder if Ethan Van Sciver started a trash cast for tonight, and that would not surprise me in the least. No, but I do see a Geeks and Gamers thing that just came out. Who's doing that? Is it Captain America 4 box office fail? I wonder how much money Captain America has actually gotten so far. Let's see, box office. $208 million. It sank to $28 million in its second weekend. And I can't imagine how that's fair. I mean, I liked the movie. I thought it was fairly decent. The one thing that hurts it more than anything else, I think, is the fact that William Hurt passed away, and so they had to get Harrison Ford to step into the role. Which is not to say that he's doing a bad job in this movie. In fact, I think he does pretty good. But you really wanted to see William Hurt carry this arc through to its conclusions. Um, there's, it's just sad that he died. I mean, it's so sad. Uh, it wasn't something. I mean, I remember thinking to myself as I was watching Harrison Ford acting through his scenes. I wonder how William Hurt would have done this. I wonder how he would have done this differently, and I wonder if Harrison Ford could have done it more like William Hurt would have done it. I really would have liked to have seen William Hurt be able to, live through and carry the day, but that's just not what happens. Sometimes you gotta get somebody else. It's really sad. Uh, Two of this says Ethan Van Fat's not a nice person. Amaze 12 said it opened to 30 million less than Ant-Man 3 and dropped off 82% on or so on week 3. God, and it's a decent movie though. And of course I liked Ant-Man 3 also. I mean, I not enough that I would see it multiple times, but I actually, if somebody were to say, "Hey, you want to go back and see Captain America Brave New World a second time?" and I could probably do it. Not week 3, week 2. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that drop off is just, it's catastrophic, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. Let's see. Tahilum 29 says CG have become no different than communist groupies. They've fallen from far from grace. Maze 12 says, surprised you like some of these movies since you're harsh on comic stories. Yeah, well, I mean, I can't say I've liked all the movies that have come out, but as far as this one, I thought was pretty good. I mean, I I want to say I thought this Captain America movie was better than the Captain America and Winter Soldier series that was on Disney Plus. Actually, that was Falcon and the Winter Soldier that got upgraded to Captain America and the Winter Soldier at the end. Uh, what was the last? I mean, the Marvels was actually, it had a really stupid scene in the middle where people started singing and dancing, and I'm just like, this is some serious bullshit. But uh, it wasn't a terrible movie overall. Um, like I said, Ant-Man 3, I kind of enjoyed that one. I saw it a second time recently, and it held up pretty well. Uh, but yeah, I mean, Captain America: Brave New World. I mean, it had a lot of the stuff that you would expect from a Marvel movie, and it did so in the context of a story that I thought was well paced and involving and had a lot of fan service in it to shout out to people who have been following the thing from the very beginning. And yeah, I liked it. Um, okay, so where are we at? We're at $21 away still from the target. And I don't know if I'm going to last like the full 2 hours I put up for this goal, because I've kind of had a stomach ache ever since I don't know if I had a stomach ache from the brisket nachos that I had when I was at the theater, or maybe it's from all the baked cod that I just ate, that it was kind of a clearance kind of thing. I have a tendency to get Russian roulette type stuff from Kroger's. They have a lot of reduced price things that I'll just go ahead and pop in my mouth. Gamer Dude 23 has rounded it up to an even $20 remaining. So one $20 super chat will do it all. But yeah, we're $20 away from Rippazine number 3, and Gamer Dude 23 has been carrying the weight the whole time. So it's much appreciated. Uh let's see. Yeah, Kroger's, they have a lot of good cheap stuff, and they will, mark down certain things that I'll go ahead and eat. So I don't know if I just ate too much fish or what have you. Uh Amaze 12 says, little behind on what you've been covering lately. Were you going to cover Rippazine 2 Bloodruth, Great War, Yaira 2, ISOM 3, and all the other stuff coming up, or are you going to be more selective? Rippazine 2, I think I already covered. I don't know if I may have covered that in a live stream. So you might have to look back at my prior live streams to see my Rippazine 2 review. Because I don't think I saw enough in that book to be worth a video all on its own. I know I did. I'm pretty sure I did Rippazine #1 as its own review, because there was stuff in there that I saw that was like, yeah, I need to point these things out. But Rippazine 2 was so forgettable in so many ways that I think I just basically held up some stuff to the camera and said, don't like this, don't like this. I don't even really remember what I said. There was one clever moment in the Saoirse story where you think that Saoirse is the one in the backseat of a limo, and it turns out she's the driver. That's pretty much it. Other than that, I didn't get much out of the book at all. But yes, I will be reviewing Bloodruth. That is on its way, I assume. In fact, I should probably check my porch and just make sure it hasn't arrived already. Great War of Separation, I bought that. Yaira 2, I was bribed into buying that. ISOM 3, I will be doing that. My review will probably come a little late on that because I don't plan on picking up ISOM #3 until the campaign's about to close. And the reason being is I have no idea what else he's going to be offering in addition to just the ISOM #3 stuff. I mean, I assume he might be adding some things along the way. And if he is, then, that's there might be something in there that I think is worth buying. Although I can't imagine what that would be, but think about it. I mean, over the course of a campaign, he could be, offering other items and then decide, okay, well, maybe you'll get a discount if you buy ISOM #3 with this other item from this other campaign. I don't know what he decides to do. I have no idea. But I mean, I will be getting ISOM #3 at some point in the future, but it's probably just going to be late on the review. Invariant 47 says, by improvised, I mean Comicsgate have art talents, but I'm not sure if they have the best editing talent. Well, I'm pretty sure they don't have the best editing talent, because I haven't seen evidence of that as yet. But then again, I mean, I'm still young and looking at a lot of these Comicsgate titles, and I've got stuff on the way. That's pretty much all I can say, and then I'll be able to kind of judge how Comicsgate is doing as a movement altogether. Because right now, I mean, Ethan's carrying a large share of the load with his Cyberfrog books, and we'll see how Dark Harvest does. I've got that on the way, and then beyond that, who knows what these people are doing in terms of the quality of their books. I got to read them first to find out. I will be also reading Liam Gray's Dino King, so that's going to be interesting in that Ethan speaks so highly of Liam Gray's Dino King that it makes me wonder, is it really going to be better than Cyberfrog, or is it just going to turn out that Ethan and I have entirely different tastes in what I think is good or whatnot? Amaze 12 says, we'll check that out. I remember you did an overview for the first one. I thought Rippazine 2 was Eric's worst writing, even if the art was amazing. Yeah, the problem with Saoirse was I felt like that was one where Darren Fontano could easily have been inserted into that story instead of him trying to invent a new character for it. And because he didn't make use of what was already there, it's like he's trying to expand his universe a little bit too far, and not develop a relationship among the various characters that exist in that Rippaverse so far. Boomfist says Comicsgate has no discipline. Amaze 12 says, glad you're covering all this stuff, by the way. I'm a Rippaverse fan, but it can be a bit overly positive, and there have been some real issues, whether they're major or minor ones, on all the books so far. Very, very true. Invariant 47, EVS blew up the Dino King. Yeah, I mean, that thing soared after he gave it a recommendation, and he was extraordinarily positive on it. And I've got my copies. It's the next thing I'm going to review, and we'll just see. I have high hopes for it, just because I think I got to a 2-page spread where I saw, like, people running from floodwaters and realizing, oh, I think part of the premise of this book is that, the Great Flood actually wiped out the dinosaur civilization that lived on Earth before mankind got here, or something like that. And if so, that's kind of an interesting premise, and it'll be interesting to see how Liam Gray's art style, his kind of manga art style, fits into all this too. Uh, Amaze12 says, I actually thought they were going to have Darren instead of setting up that new villain, like how they foreshadowed that, except in Salvage before they encounter each other. Yeah, and who even is that ninja guy? He's like a ninja with, I don't know, well, I was going to say kangaroo legs, but I mean, he's got very powerful legs, is basically what it seems his deal is. Ugh. Is there anything else going on to talk about? I don't even know. I mean, we talked about the ISOM 3 trailer. We talked about, wrapping up ISOM 3, and talked about Captain America the movie. We talked about the BLOODRUTH Goof. I don't know how much we talked about that. I mean, there's not much to say other than, does he really expect anybody to buy his excuse? Amaze12 says, Saoirse also had a really dumb moment where she leaves a guy awake in the computer room and tries to blend in with people just outside. She got caught immediately after. Yeah, I just don't see the value of those titles. And Gamer Dude 23, good Lord, man. Thank you so much. I mean, you basically carried the entire show here, and golly, you and Low Watermark together, you're both in the same bucket. You're the whales. You're the great benefactors of the channel. So thank you so much. I feel bad that this all fell down on you. I'm working on a comic book script. My professor read it. He said it was fun and pulpy. It reminded him of classic Spider-Man style. I don't know if that is a good thing for these times. Have advice for a first-time writer. Hey, there's never. I mean, you can't ever say that anything should be ruled out because it doesn't fit the times. I mean, if you're writing and your art is good enough, it's going to shape the times that we're reading in. It's not like do what you enjoy doing. I mean, ultimately, I really do think there's something to be said for the fact that if you are an artist, you are working for yourself, and you're trying to put out the kind of comic that you want to see, because everybody has their tastes. You can't control what they like. You may as well do something that ultimately pleases you. So I would say, yeah. I mean, if it's something that you think is worthy of publishing, then go and find yourself an artist and publish it. Amaze12 says, "Congrats on the comic script, Gamer Dude. Best of luck with it." Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would not even begin to worry about whether or not the world is ready for this kind of work. Just publish it and see, because it could wind up that if people's tastes come around to that kind of thing again, well, then your book's already out there. Um, and then maybe your book will become the next big thing. You never know. I mean, when I've written scripts, it's like, okay, what would I want to see in this kind of script? What is the kind of message that I want to get across? In what kind of style do I want it to be? Just write largely for yourself, and then if you entertain yourself, there's a good chance that you're going to entertain other people as well. Um, and if you ever have any questions about in terms of what's working, I mean, you can just look and see what the top selling comics are and see if you can blend anything of their stuff into your work. You always have that option. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, it's kind of like back when I was going to be contracted to write a particular scripts for a particular book, and it all fell through, and none of it ever got published. But I remember asking I remember asking the guy who was doing it, kind of the Eric July of the company at that time, and saying, well, what should I do? And he said, what sells? So if you kind of run out of ideas, you can always look and see, well, what's at the top of the charts, and then see how well those themes fit in with what it is that you want to publish. But the main thing is just to kind of try and you do you. And if people respond to it, great. If they don't, well, it's kind of like whenever Ethan Van Sciver starts e-fapping one of my live streams, and then he gets bored and drops off, and it's just like kind of crushing when that happens. Because I like Ethan's stuff so much, and I watch his live streams practically all the way through, and then to just know that I don't hold his interest in the same way, it's just kind of like, well, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. You don't get to control that kind of thing. But I mean, at least there were I was able to hold some people's attention for a while. Not quite so much anymore, but because I can see that my total has gone down from like 31 to 17. I wonder if now has Ethan actually come online? No, actually not. Although I wonder if maybe there's somebody on one of the other channels. Sometimes I have to just look and say, okay, show me everything live that's going on. Oh, Frog Tony's on. The Rippaverse is in free fall, gabbing with geeks. And what else? Do we have anybody else who is of any note in the comic book world? So maybe I'll go take a look over at Frog Tony's stuff and going, well, thanks entirely to GamerDude.23. The Bribestream has been a success. We have collected the $25 necessary for the purchase and review of Rippazine number 3. Thank you so much, GamerDude23, for your contributions. You definitely took one for the team on this Bribestream. So I got to see now, now that that's all been accomplished, let's look at Fund My Comic and go over to PIGMAN. I'm kind of curious to see how that's doing now, because I know he's gotten quite a bit from. Oh, here we go. PIGMAN number 1. It's on the featured picks even, and oh wow, $10,000 raised in a day. He created PIGMAN not long after 9/11. So this is kind of old work that he's done that is, I think, being reprinted. And let's see, what have we got here? Wow, some of these are